Hey guys, it's Sarah, and I am here with my next installment of what I read in 2019, and this is for the month of October. This is a long video. Grab a snack, grab a drink. I'm not kidding, this is going to take a while, and I cut a lot out. A lot. So the first thing I'm going to do here is get you started, and then I will tell you why this took so long. I have to stamp some more books. As you can see, I stamp out a little book image, and this is the stamp set I use for that. I've had some questions about what the open book stamp is. It is from a Clearly Kelly bookish stamp set that I got, I believe, on Simon Says Stamp, but it's from Clearly Kelly, and that's Kelly Perky. And so I stamp out the books and I put the numbers over top of the book images. So I just went ahead and I stamped all the rest that I need for the rest of the year because I know how many books I read that year now. So I went ahead and just stamped out everything else I needed. And then I cut out what I needed for this month. Now, this took me forever because this month I read 16 books. So there's a lot of books to talk about. It was a very good reading month for me. I was reading a lot of young adult books because I was taking a young adult literature class for my courses. So that's going to be a lot of it in here as well. Okay, so for my raw footage, I ended up having almost 3 hours, actually 3 hours of raw footage on here. So I had to cut out quite a bit. And there were a few things here and there where I was looking for stuff and I didn't find anything. So I just kind of cut that out. So I did cut out a lot, but it still ended up being a very, very long video. So all right, what I'm doing right now is I'm just putting the books down on the cards that I have already picked, and I'm putting the numbers down, and I do that all at once so I don't lose those numbers. So I showed you a couple and then cut the rest of it out, but that's the first thing I do is I just get the books onto the cards and then the numbers down so that they're in order and everything's good, and then I can just grab and go, but I don't want to lose those numbers. So okay, book time. The first one is The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. And this is an adult, I guess it would be kind of a mystery thriller, psychological a little bit type. It's basically about a woman who befriends somebody that she knows and basically tries to steal her life. And that's very known. You're inside her head, you know what she's trying to do. She's trying to take over this woman's life. She's trying to steal her husband, her life. She wants to be her or be in her position. And you see her being deceptive, trying to do that. So for this one, I grabbed a couple of die cuts here, and something that's interesting about this video as well is that halfway through this video, I did part of this and then I had to walk away from it to go, like I had to come back another day to finish it because there were so many. And then in between those times, I actually reorganized my die cuts by color instead of manufacturer. So you're going to see that that's going to be a difference here too. So right now they're still by manufacturer, so I have to go through things and it takes me a little bit longer to find some good die cuts. But for this one, I used a tag that says just be cool, and I like the colors that they match, the book nicely. And then I think I have that ampersand, and then I think I have a little tab, and I can't remember, I can't see what it says. Say selfie? Yeah, it says selfie. And then I want a little bit more on there, and I'm just not sure what I want. So I go back into my die cuts and I find something that's actually kind of perfect. So I find this little tag here that's like a head, and I'm going to cut out this little head, and it's like she has sunglasses on, almost like she's spying, which is 100% perfect for this book. So I'm going to go ahead and use her too, and I'm just going to layer it over top of the tag there. So it ends up being perfect. But I did like that book. I gave it 4 stars. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. And I'm going to go ahead and get it into my album here. And I'm looking to see, yeah, there we go. Another thing that took me a while, like I had to stop and do something else for a little bit and then come back to this, is because I ran out of page protectors. So I had to order more. So I just went on Amazon and ordered some more page protectors for this album because I didn't have any more that would be able to fit into the album and what I needed. So I did have to do that. Okay, next one is The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. This is a classic, and I read this because it is part of the American or the Great American Reads, and that is a list I would like to make my way through over the course of my lifetime. So this is one that I decided to go ahead and give a read. And I've never read anything by Ernest Hemingway before, so it was definitely an experience. I didn't love it. I understand why. I mean, I guess, I don't know. I want to say I understand why people like it, but I thought it was kind of boring. There was a couple interesting parts, but it was definitely more of a character-driven book, and I'm more of a plot-driven reader, so there is that. I have a hard time with books that are more focused on the characters than anything, but this one was just kind of boring to me. But the writing was really good, so there is that. So that's another reason I ended up giving it 3 stars. But I just, I don't know. I had an interesting experience with it. The story was okay. The writing was good, so I don't know. I gave it 3 stars. I was a little bit bored throughout it, so luckily it wasn't like a very long book. I got through it pretty quickly, but it just definitely wasn't my favorite, but I can definitely tell why he is such a popular author because his writing is very, very good. So I'll give him that. So I used some gold stars on there as well. And yeah, so next one is The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. I read this one for my class. And this is another one that was just okay for me. Parts of it were really, really interesting and heartbreaking. It deals with a young boy who lives on an Indian reservation and some of the hardships he has to go through. There's a lot of drug use, there's a lot of violence. And then he ends up convincing his parents to let him go to a school that is in the next town over, and it's a predominantly white school, so he deals with some racism over there as well. And it was all right. I was interested the whole time, and there's some really cool drawings because it's told like in a journal entry format. But by the end, I was definitely over it and just kind of felt like it dragged on a little bit longer than it really needed to. So I gave it 3 stars. And yeah, so I can now say that I have read it. That's also on a lot of banned books lists as well. If you're looking for a banned book, there is that one. And it was a quick read. I read through it pretty quickly as well. But I used a couple green things there for green on the cover. And yeah, so put that one in. And then the next one is 13 by Steve Kavanaugh. Okay, let's talk about this one. This was fantastic. I get a lot of questions about this book because this is book number 4, I think, in a series. But you don't have to read the other books in the series in order to enjoy this one, because I did not. I jumped right into this one and it was fantastic. There are casual mentions of past cases, but I wasn't lost. I didn't feel like, I was missing out on anything because I didn't read the other ones. So I loved this book. Now, this book is a courtroom drama more than anything, and it follows a serial killer who kills somebody, and the police are actively trying to find the serial killer. He manages to get on the jury of a case for one of his victims, and someone else is on trial for it. Oh, it's so good. Really, like, you talk about a dark, dark villain. This guy was crazy. Oh man, so good. I gave it 5 stars, as I just put on there. And for the die cut, I can't remember what that says, but it has a good quote on it that I thought was a little bit fitting. And I think life was made for moments like this, maybe? Yeah, something like that. But just my experience reading that was so great, and I loved it. So, let's talk about Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This was one of my favorite books of the year. This was a very close second to Beartown. Like I had a hard time deciding between which one was my absolute favorite. This one is a young adult book, and it follows a situation where society has figured out how to do away with death. So there's no death anymore. There's no accidents. Like you can't die from a car accident. You can't die from cancer. There's no death. Like there's no sickness, nothing. But because of that, we still have to have some sort of population control. Otherwise, you know, the world could just like be overrun by humans, right? And so scythes are people who are in charge of population control. They have the power to decide who is going to continue living and who is going to die for good. And if you are killed by a scythe, then you are done. Your life is over. That's really the only way that you can die. And so we follow two characters who end up being an apprentice or apprentices to a scythe. And so they are learning what it takes to go into that, what it means to be a scythe, how they operate, how they make their decisions. It's very political. It is so interesting. I loved every second of this book. I really did. And it is a trilogy. I'm going to read the other two this year, definitely. But it was so interesting, and just the situations they were in. There was a lot of gray area. You start questioning what you would do in that situation or how you would handle that. And I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. And the writing was fantastic as well. I really liked his writing. And I was pretty obsessed when I read that book. I still am. I still think about it. And I'm definitely excited to go on to the next two books in that series. So loved that. Definitely one of my favorites. And now we will move into The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. And I really enjoyed this book. This is a paranormal book that follows a woman who had a sister who was killed near an abandoned boarding school. And she is pretty obsessed with the fact that she believes the person who is in jail for her sister's murder is not the person who did it. And she is trying to figure out who really did this, and it's really taken over her life. And she ends up, really diving deep into what happened, and she encounters some paranormal activity at the school as well. And it's told in a dual timeline, so you're in the present with her, and then you're also seeing what happened back then. So it was really good, very creepy, definitely. And I think I gave it 4 stars, I believe. It wasn't something that I was like completely obsessed with, but it was really, really good. I really did enjoy it. And then, so for this one, I used some washi tape with some clouds on it and hearts and a floral piece that I just fussy cut around, and then a little puffy sticker that says right now. So, yep, so I got that one done there, and I will add that to my album. Simone St. James is definitely an author I want to get more into. I've read a couple of her books now and really liked them, so I want to read more of her work. Okay, and now we're on a different day. This is the 57 bus, and this is where I have redone my die cuts, so I have them by color now, which is really so far helping me because I tend to scrap by color. I don't think about manufacturer, I think about color. So when I'm doing this album, I'm realizing it's going a lot faster because, this one is mostly yellow. So that's what I'm looking for. So I go into my yellow and I find a couple things and it's perfect. So this one it's going to help a little bit here. All right, so I have a piece there that says Be Golden, and then I have this little clothespin here as well. And that is good because this is a nonfiction book about a hate crime that happened in Oakland, California in, I think, 2013 is when this occurred. 2 teenagers were on a city bus in Oakland after school going home, and there is a hate crime that occurs on that bus between the 2 of them. And so you follow like what happened and the aftermath and all that stuff. So the clothespin comes in because the victim is an agender individual, and they make a lot of their clothes and stuff like that. So it seemed a little bit fitting to the story, I think. And it was good. I gave it 4 stars, and I read that one for my class as well. And next one is One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus, another author I would like to get more into. I really liked this one. This is a young adult book, and it was kind of pitched as The Breakfast Club. So 5 teenagers go into detention, and only 4 of them come out because one of them dies while they're in detention. And so you're following what happened. You know what happens in the room when they're in there, but you're trying to figure out like what really did happen. You know what I mean? And so each one of the 4 people are scrutinized and looked at, and they're, suspects, and you follow kind of the case that's happening surrounding that, and trying to figure out what happened to this teenager and why they were, why they died. So it was very good. I really liked it. There is a follow-up to this that I would like to read. I was planning to get it from the library, but now the libraries are closed. So I might try to see if I can find the ebook through my library if I can here soon. But that's one that's been on my mind that I think I really want to read. I didn't end up, I don't think I kept that book. I'm trying to remember if I did or not. I need to go look at my shelves and see if I kept that one. But that's one that I had physically. So I'll see if I kept it or not. I don't remember if I did. Either way, I would like to read the follow-up, and I think I'll probably just get it through the library. But yeah, it was very good. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't, one of the best books I read, but it was really good, and I was very entertained the entire time. So yeah, I really liked it a lot. It's a good young adult mystery. Okay, so, Looking for Alaska by John Green. Unpopular opinion time. I don't like John Green. I just don't like his books. I don't like his characters, and that was a big thing for me. His characters drive me nuts, and I just don't feel like they're very realistic, and I feel like they're whiny, and I can't take it. So I gave this one a try for my class, and I can now say that I have read John Green, and I gave him a try, and I just don't like him. I've read 2 of his books now. I don't plan to read anymore, but this one was also on the Great American Reads list. So I did give this one 3 stars. I guess because I can understand why people like John Green. I understand that. He is a good writer. Like, the writing was good, but I just didn't like the characters at all. I just could not stand Alaska as a character. And I know you're supposed to feel bad for her, and you're supposed to be able to relate to her, and you're supposed to, care about what happens to her, but she drove me nuts. It's like, can you whine anymore? So I don't know if that's an age thing for me or not, or what, but I mean, there are young adult books that I've really enjoyed. So, I don't know. It's a little weird with me and John Green, but I just don't think he's an author for me, and that's okay. Not all of them are going to be. So, but I did read it. And let's see what's next. Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This I loved. I loved this book. This is a young adult science fiction, and the formatting of this book is so interesting. This is told in mixed media format. So there are emails and text messages and transcripts, and, audio transcripts and things like that, and reports and stuff. It's told all in that type of format. And it's something that's set in space. There's a spaceship that is being attacked. And our 2 main characters are 2 people who, in the very beginning of the book, were in a relationship, but they broke up, and then their planet is attacked, and they have to escape on the spaceships, and they get separated, and they're trying to find each other again, and they have to help each other, and it's so good. All the while, there's this enemy spaceship who's trying to take them both down, and it's so good. It was thrilling. There was a lot happening. There were parts in it that I was like, my heart was pounding because it was so dangerous, and I loved it. This is one that I listened to the audiobook while I read through the book at the same time, and I highly recommend doing that. It just gave it such a great experience. And there are 2 more books in this series, and I do plan to actually read those like this week. I plan to kind of read them back to back and finish up this trilogy, but it was fantastic. Jay Kristoff is one of my favorite authors right now, and I have a feeling he's just going to keep on going that way, and he's going to end up being like an all-time favorite of mine. But it was great. There were definitely some funny moments in here too, because Jay Kristoff, his humor is just right on par with mine. So I could tell, some of the humor that he put in there, and I loved the characters. So it was great. If you're looking for something definitely different that you can kind of fly through, and if you are intimidated by space or science fiction, like give this one a try, because I think it's a good introductory to science fiction if you want to maybe try to get into something like that. But that was fantastic. Next is The Prince and the Dressmaker. This is a graphic novel. This is by Jen Wang, and I read this one for my class as well. And this one follows a prince who lives in, oh, what kind of prince was he? It's set in Paris, but I don't think he lived in Paris. I don't think that's how it was. But he goes to some sort of ball or something in Paris, and he sees this girl who shows up in like this very scandalous dress, and it's like the talk of everything. And he's intrigued by the person who created this dress, and he figures out who it was, and then he asks her to be his seamstress, offers her a job, and she takes it. However, the catch is he wants her to make dresses for him because he likes to go out on the town at night in disguise and wear dresses. That's his identity. So, but he has to keep it all secret because he's a prince and he's in the public eye, and he's, not supposed to do that. So she takes him up on it, and they form a relationship from there. This little tag that says "sew on" is perfect. So I definitely wanted to use that because, she makes dresses for him, and I did enjoy it. I gave it 3 stars just because I read through it so quickly. I almost didn't really have time to connect so much to the characters. Like, it was just over so fast. But I did enjoy it. I thought it was a good story. Okay, next is Autobiography by Christina Lauren. I absolutely love Christina Lauren. And this was no exception. Loved it. This follows 2 teenage boys who live in Utah. One of them is Mormon. The other one is not. One of them, the non-Mormon, is bisexual. And he had just moved from California, where he was, out as a bisexual, doesn't try to hide anything. Everybody knows, no problem. But when they moved to Utah for his mom's job, he finds himself feeling the need to conceal that because they are living in a very Mormon heavy area. So he ends up meeting a boy at school, and the boy is Mormon, but they have an undeniable attraction and connection to each other. And so you see the Mormon boy trying to come to terms with that because he's never had that before. So it goes through, their relationship and their, undeniable attraction to each other and how they're both handling it. So it was very good. I really loved it. I gave it 5 stars, obviously. Christina Lauren has been another favorite. And I think almost everything I've given 5 stars. I just read another one by them recently, and I gave it 4, but it was still really good. So I loved that one. Okay, this one is Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. This one, I had high hopes for this one, but I didn't love it. It was kind of a weird one for me. Like, it was interesting, and I liked parts of it. I think the story overall was good, but the main character in this book drove me nuts because she was basically she's a feminist living in the 1800s, and that's really hard to do because, 1800s women didn't have a lot of freedoms back then. She wants to be a mortician, and she can't do that. So she has to hide it and kind of, you know, sneak around to be able to do something like that. And I mean, every time a male talks to her, she gets her feathers in a ruffle. Like, it kind of drove me nuts. I'm like, okay, honey, at some point you're just going to need to get over this. Or you don't have to battle everything that people say to you. You know what I mean? She kind of drove me nuts. And that's not an unpopular opinion. A lot of people don't like the main character in this book. And I think there's 4 books in this series. So if I do continue with it, it'll be something I get from the library. I'm not going to buy any of them. But it was all right. I gave it 3 stars. I'm not opposed to continuing on and maybe seeing what else happens in the series, but it wasn't my favorite, definitely. The Book of Ivy next is by Amy Engel, and I loved this one. This was actually a surprise at how much I loved it. This is a dystopian book, and it follows a community that has kind of rebuilt after things kind of fall apart. And I believe it's from a war, and they have built this community, and they have this person in power, and the way that they're kind of keeping their community going is that they have arranged marriages, and you do that all based on personality tests and stuff. And what they have done here is there's an arranged marriage between the current president of the area and the founder of the area, and they have their son and daughter, or grandkids, maybe something like that, in a marriage. And that is supposed to be showing unity, and because there was some bad blood, I guess, between them. However, this our main character goes into this marriage with the intent to kill her new husband, but of course nothing is as it seems, and it was so good. I really liked it. There is a follow-up book to that one. It's a duology, so I do plan to read the next one here very soon because I really want more from that world. Okay, 2 more. This one is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is another one that I read for my class, and this is a book that is told in verse. It is about a teenage girl who is struggling with some overbearing parents. She is trying to express herself, but she's having trouble doing that publicly. She's dealing with some feelings she has towards a boy at school as well. And I didn't love this one. I thought it was fine. I ended up giving it 3 stars. Like, I understand why a lot of people loved it, and it won a lot of awards. There's the 3 different awards on the book cover, as you can see. I just had a hard time relating to her. I also had a hard time with the fact that she lied to her parents a lot, and I had a hard time feeling sorry for her when she got caught, and when, she had consequences of that, and then she was like upset about it. I'm like, well, you're lying to your parents, honey. Like, and maybe that's because I am a mother, and I understand, like, a lot of people were saying, well, she can't be herself around her parents, and I get that, I do, but as a parent, I had a hard time with that. So I gave it 3 stars, but I can see why so many people really love that book. It just wasn't like my favorite. Okay, last one, The Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. This is book number 4 in a fantasy series, and I love this series. I'm actually planning to read book 5 next month in April. And this follows an assassin who is basically considered like the best assassin around. And in the first book, she is jailed because she ends up getting caught, and she gets basically saved from jail with the condition that she is going to enter into a contest to become the king's assassin. And she has to try to earn her place, earn that spot against some other people who are part of that competition. And if she wins, then she will become the king's assassin, and she has to serve a certain amount of time. And then after that, she earns her freedom. She doesn't have to go back to jail. So that is what happens in the first book, or that's like the premise of the first book. This is book number 4, so I'm not gonna go into spoilers or anything, but I have really, really loved this series. Each book is just so good, and there's a lot of politics. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of gray area. There's a lot of, yeah, just so good. I really, really love it. This one I gave 4 stars. It was very good, and I'm excited to finish the series. I have 3 more books to read. Like I said, I'm going to read book number 5 here soon. But very good. So if you like young adult fantasies and you haven't read this series, the Throne of Glass series is very, very good. So I highly recommend these for sure. Okay, that is the last one that I read in the month of October for 2019. Here is a close-up of the month. It was a lot. I did read a lot. I had a lot I had to read for my class. So like most of these young adult books were for my class. So that was a whole lot of it. And it was a great reading month for me. So I really liked it. And then I had a couple fast ones like Illuminae and The Prince and the Dressmaker were both really quick reads. So there was that too. But yeah, okay, so that is it. Those are the books I read in October. I'm still working on this album. I have 2 more months to go and I will be doing those soon. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you again soon. Bye.